All right, so welcome everybody to Peter White Public Library. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome on YouTube. My name is Mark Yakitz and I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator here for the library. And it's my real pleasure to welcome Heather Bell and Dana from Snowbound. I love Dana. We love Dana here. We're going to be talking about Heather's new cookbook. But I just want to thank a couple, one group in particular, and that would be the Friends of Peter White Public Library, who pay for the live streaming and the live streaming equipment. So we couldn't do so much of what we do here if it weren't for the Friends. So I'm going to make you aware of a couple things that are upcoming this week and next week. On Wednesday night, we have a concert, Superior Pipes and Drums and Friends holiday concert. It will be 6:30 right here in the community room. And that is going to be really wonderful. If you want some Christmas music with some bagpipes and drums, show up that night. I think it's going to be really fantastic. And then on Thursday, we have a whole lot of stuff that's going on as part of our Winter Wonderland Walk celebration. If you haven't been to the library and upstairs and looked at all the beautiful trees and around here, I mean, basically, there's trees everywhere. I think if you go into a bathroom, there's a tree. But, I'm lying there, but that would be really cool. But anyway, there's just all beautiful trees all over the place, and we're going to have our Winter Wonderland Walk celebration on Thursday. It starts at 6 p.m., and there's going to be holiday treats upstairs, and so cocoa, cider, Christmas cookies, and then at 6:30 p.m., right here in the community room on Thursday the 12th, we have another Christmas concert, and that is going to be Big Lake Acoustic doing a holiday concert. So from 6:30 to 7:30, you can go and sugar yourself up with Christmas cookies and hot chocolate, and then come on down here for the concert. Seamus and Linda always put on such a great show. And if you are interested in a little poetry that night as well, the Marquette Poet Circle is going to be having their holiday get-together 5 p.m. up in the Shiras room. So there's going to be potluck snacks and everything, and then there's going to be an open mic before the holiday concert begins. So you can come and hear some holiday poetry upstairs, go and see the trees, get some cookies, and I'll allow you to bring cookies into the community room so you can bring them down here and enjoy the concert. So that's all happening on Thursday. And then on Friday, we have our docu-cinema movie upstairs in the Shiras room this time, starting at noon. And that is going to be part of our C.S. Lewis Holidays special programming series. And it is going to be the movie Shadowlands, starring Anthony Hopkins as C.S. Lewis and Deborah Winger as C.S. Lewis's wife. And if you've never seen Shadowlands, it's a really beautiful film, and you really can't go wrong with an Anthony Hopkins movie. You really can't. He's wonderful. Then next Monday, if you haven't been voting for our Merry Movie Mayhem upstairs, we are going head-to-head right now. It's Home Alone against Jim Carrey's The Grinch. And I hate to tell you this, or maybe you'll really be happy about this, but Jim Carrey is beating out Home Alone right now. So we need more votes for Home Alone if you want Home Alone. You can vote for them upstairs, or you can vote online for that. But whatever wins, next Monday we will be showing that movie. It will either be The Grinch or Home Alone. If you don't like The Grinch, just show up for the popcorn, okay? So that will be next Monday starting at 6 p.m. right here in the community room. And next week as well, next Tuesday, we have Artists and Their Art, which is a virtual series with art historian Ellen Longsworth, and she is going to be she's going to be doing the third of her presentations on Michelangelo. So that's really wonderful. If you want to see that, you can go to our pwpl.info and get the Zoom link for that and watch that. And let's see. And then next Wednesday night, Wednesday the 18th, 6:30 p.m., we're going to conclude our C.S. Lewis holidays with another movie, and that will be The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. 6:30 to 8 p.m. right here in the community room, and there will be free snacks, and it's just going to be a wonderful time. And then after that, I'm taking 2 weeks off, so...
Enjoy.
So everybody can take a big, deep breath, enjoy the holidays coming up. So I really want to, now my job is just turn things over to Dana and Heather, but I'm really excited about this. I've looked through Heather, I love looking through cookbooks and seeing the pictures and everything. They look delicious, everything that's in there. And guess what? You have some holidays that are coming up where you might need to cook a lot of things. So this might be a really, really good resource for you. So I'm going to turn things over to Dana. Please give a big Peter White Public Library welcome to Dana from Snowbound and Heather Bell. We'll have you come up. There's switches on the mics. It's on. All right, you have to turn your mic on.
Okay, I am not a microphone pro, so bear with me here if I drop it a couple times. Hey Heather. Hi. Hi.
Marty, I did not know how you do this. I mean, I'm exhausted just listening to your
I'm trying to plan like 3
Lots of
events in
caffeine,
December.
lots of caffeine.
So hello.
Hello.
So we live a mile from each other. So I'm just like so happy to have a local cookbook, you know, to have in the store, and people come in and ask all the time for local cookbooks. So I'm very happy to have a cookbook in the store.
Thanks so much for having it in there. You've been a big help for sure to get our cookbook out, so I'm very thankful for that.
Thanks. So for those who aren't familiar with you, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, like how you came to be a farmer and a mom and a social media star?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
I'll start with the mom.
Okay.
So my husband and I adopted 7 of our 8 children. We were told we wouldn't be able to have children, so we adopted my oldest son David through private adoption, and then decided to become foster parents. So we were foster parents for probably 12 years, adopted 6 of our 6. I have 8 kids, so it's hard sometimes. 6 children through foster care, and so that's how we became, we're just the Bell's 10. And then for the farm, my husband grew up on a dairy farm over in Sault Ste. Marie area, and so farming's just in his blood. And so I remember telling him when we were dating, I'm not going to be a farmer's wife. I'm not going to be a farmer's wife. And now we're chicken farmers. We have 4,000 chickens. We sell eggs throughout our whole community. We partnered with NMU buys our eggs, and local restaurants buy our eggs. And we also raise Clydesdale horses. So we have lots of Clydes running around the farm.
And what do you do with the Clydesdales?
We show them. We used to do sleigh rides, but they're younger now, so they have to grow up a little bit before we can do sleigh rides again. We have 2 babies coming this next year, actually, so we're super excited about that. And then with social media, honestly, I was only on Facebook, like probably most people, and my kids were talking about TikTok. I had no idea what TikTok was, like at all. And so I told my son Gideon, I said, I should do TikTok. And he's like, Mom, nobody's going to follow you. You're older.
Do you think you were going to dance or something? Or?
I don't know what he was thinking, but he said, no. And so I just got on there, and as I was doing whatever videos, people were like, you have all these children, like, do you have like an adult home? Who are all those kids in the background walking around? And so they were very intrigued by our big family. And so I started to share with them our story of who our children were, how they came into our home. And then that progressed to, well, how do you guys eat? And I'm thinking like everybody else. I mean, I honestly didn't think we were any different than anybody else. Yeah. Well, how do you go grocery shopping? How do you put away your groceries? I'm just like, I just really didn't feel like we were any different than everybody else. But people were very intrigued by our big family and how we did things and how we organized. And because when we first started our page, we weren't a cooking page. But then people are asking, like, what do you guys make for food? And what do you use to cook? And I'm like, well, people want to know. So then we started sharing our recipes, our family traditions, our farm, of course, our adoption story. And so that's kind of how the cooking came in. And then everybody was like, you guys need to write a cookbook. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of busy right now, but maybe, And then, like for Mama Bell, they gave me that name. They just started calling me Mama Bell. And it, kind of stuck with me. It's, I was like, okay, I can go with that.
I mean, That's what we call you at the store. I mean, I didn't know your first name was Heather until, I think until I got the email from your publicist. It's like, oh no, she's just Mom Bell, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people say that when I'll share something and then I'll say my name. They're like, Heather, who's Heather? They're like, and I'm kind of surprised because we've been on there for probably close. I got my daughter and my son in the audience. That's why I keep looking over to help me. But we've been on for a while, so I'm really surprised. I guess I did a really good job of keeping my name out of
Yeah,
social media.
yeah. That's, well, kind of with my store, like, I've had a couple people tell me, well, what is your last name? Like, I've known you for 20 years, what's your last name? I'm like, oh, it's not anymore. So, yeah, I guess I just
Yeah,
feel comfortable with people, and you just let them know who you are or something.
Right,
I don't know,
right.
So, how long have you been on social media? Is this like a pandemic thing that you had?
yeah, pandemic.
Yeah,
Yep, I mean, that's when the first time I heard about TikTok,
okay.
you know, and it's funny because after Gideon saying, you know, nobody's gonna follow you, you know, he just recently, this past fall, he's like, Mom, I'm like, he's gotta tell you something. I'm like, what? He's like, I'm sorry, you did it. And that's kind of hard for my son Gideon to apologize for sure. He's like, I didn't think you would, Mom, I'm really impressed. And I was like, well, thank you. But it's our whole family. People
Yeah.
really love our whole family dynamics, you know, and they tell us our page is wholesome, and because what you see is who we are. Like, we're no different because of social media. We've been doing what you see for years. Now it's just on social media.
Right.
So the cooking, our traditions for the holidays, everybody being in the kitchen together cooking, we've just always done that. And now we're just sharing it with everybody through social media.
That is amazing that was there any hesitation with anybody in the family about sharing your lives on?
There actually was. My husband was like, okay, but you know, I'm not really part of it. You know, like he didn't really want to be on it much. And then some of my kids were kind of hesitant because when we first started, I mean, to be honest with you, I shared a lot of stuff, probably things that I shouldn't have shared. And I would do grocery hauls and things like that because people wanted me to. Do more grocery hauls, you know. And I know I've shared this before, that I walked in and my husband's like, we can't eat that. Like, you just went grocery shopping, we can't eat that. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we can't eat all this. I'm like, oh, and so it kind of just was like, oh, you know, he's right. Like, I'm just buying things, give the people what they want, right? If they ask, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do a really big like reflection on our page, on what I'm sharing, and I had to sit down with my family and say, hey, I kind of crossed the lines with things. I apologize. We removed videos that we felt weren't probably the best thing for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to kind of rethink the whole social media, redo what we share, got things right with my kids. And I think after I did that, then my family felt more comfortable because they didn't feel like I was going to be intrusive with their private moments or share things that, you know, we need to just be with our family, you know. And it wasn't serious things, but it was enough that they weren't comfortable. So we had to do a whole grouping, or I did a whole regrouping on our pages. And so now my kids feel more comfortable, and if they want to be on, they can. If they don't, they don't. And then my husband is like, okay, I'm with you now, you know. And so he comes with me to book signings, and he wants to do videos with me, and he'll come in when I'm cooking and kind of give me a hug, or, you know. And so I feel like my family is more on board now because of me kind of changing things and being like, okay, it's a family page and I need to be very careful. And so I'm actually enjoying it more just because of fixing that with my family and just sharing, you know, just cooking and our family traditions. And so it was quite it's hard when you first join social media because you're just kind of obsessed with it, like the views, the likes, are people liking it, do they like you? And it kind of consumes you. And so I've gotten past that and I feel so much better just having that whole change. And
I think it's probably important to set boundaries, right? I mean,
for sure.
because you don't know who's out there.
Right,
You
exactly.
don't know what jerk is out there or whatever. But it seems like people have just totally embraced you. And do you think that you have a lot of people who follow you who live in rural areas, or do you think that you are kind of an escape for people who live in more urban areas? Do you have any idea?
Well, we definitely have built a community. I noticed on some of our posts, if some people are kind of not happy with, like, I can cook a mac and cheese and then I go on there and I'm like, oh, people are like, I'm like, I just cooked mac and cheese. But we have a community that knows us.
Okay.
So they kind of like, well, you know, this is her story and she does have to cook big, you know. So I feel like we definitely have a community on our social media that support us. I think we have both.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of people that'll message me and say, you know, I have a big family too, and so it's so neat to see you guys and how you do things. But then I'll have people message me, like, I live in the city and yeah, we just don't do that, you know, and so they're just intrigued by our dynamics and like, because we have a farm and we have a masonry and, you know, we cook big and my kids are older and they still come around and I still cook for them. So our family dynamics is just, the people in the city are just, they don't get it, you know, but we're a very close family just because of my children, my 7 of my children being adopted. And so they have a closeness because they kind of understand, being in foster care, they understand how things were. And so I feel like they're really close, you know. So I think both, I think the city and also the rural area, and also because of our story of dealing with infertility and not sure if we were going to be parents, and then having this adoption journey. We were foster parents for a little over 10 years. So I have a lot of people contact me saying, I'm going through that, and you know, your videos just make me feel better, and it gives me hope, and you know, and they share like very personal things with me because they know I understand when it deals with like trying to be a mom and things like that. So I've had lots of people reach out to me just looking for comfort or looking for hope or just like, I get it, you know, and so I think that's the big thing is just what I dealt with, my husband and then our children. People really look at that, and I mean, because I have a lot of people that message me every day. Just, I'm struggling with this, you know, so it's, I think there's just so many things why people follow us and kind of can connect with us.
I asked about the urban thing because I watched one of your videos where you guys just drove around after a storm, just showed like where you live and you know like the neighborhood and stuff, and all the comments were like, oh my god, like that's a lot of snow. Like these people like are all from Florida or something, you know, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. I think people are really kind of astounded like that, and I think another thing that fascinates me is like how in the hell do you stay organized and like how do you find time to do all of this? I mean, I have no kids, I have no dog, I have a store, and that's all my responsibility, my husband. And I have no time, so I guess I'm connecting with you right now. Like, how do you find time for everything, and how do you stay organized? And
Oh, well, I am a very organized person.
yeah,
I come from a mom.
Your Thanksgiving recipe.
Yeah.
Like, full, you know, pad.
So I'm kind of already that kind of person,
Okay.
but it really does take our whole family because I can't do it on my own. And even when my kids were little, we were very organized with like chores and just different things like that. I would write things out and my kids would pick a couple. I mean, and our pantry is very organized. So I'm just, that's who I am. And I do get exhausted and tired and
It's impressive.
yeah, and well, my husband will come in and he'll know, oh yeah, mom's tired, so guys, we got to pick it up and make some dinner, or okay, let's help with the house, and you know, so I do have a lot of help, but it really is our whole family. I mean, I can't do it by myself, and it was hard when my kids were littler, because there were times where I just sit on my bed and be just like crying.
Yeah.
My husband's like, are you okay? I don't know. Like, I don't know why I'm crying, you know, it's just being a parent, it just gets overwhelming. But I can't do it by myself, and so it took me several years to actually realize you can't do it by yourself. You have to allow your family to help you. You know, like my 2 youngest, we'd all have chores, and I'd have them load the dishwasher. I knew they wouldn't load it right, but at least they loaded it.
Yeah.
And if I had to fix it, I'll fix it after they're in bed. But the fact that they were willing to help me, so I try really hard not to critique my help. It's not easy. Because you have a way, right?
Right.
But we definitely have to be organized and planned because our house would be chaotic. But it kind of is chaotic, but Because I have 6 boys.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, organized chaos. But I have 6 boys, and so you just never know. And it's so funny because when I have people come over and visit us, my boys will literally be wrestling, and I'm just like drinking coffee, and they're just like looking around, and I'm like, what? Well, your boys are over there wrestling. Oh, they are? Because I'm just so used to it,
Sure.
you know, and they're boys, and like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
You know, and so there are times where I can't hear anything, or I'm just kind of zoning, doing my own thing, and they're kind of over there being crazy, and people are like, is that okay?
You're very focused when you're on camera. It is really impressive. 'Cause you'll hear all this stuff going on in the background, and you're just like zoned in and just cooking and just talking, and
Yeah.
it's impressive.
And I know my kids are gonna walk through, and Joshy, I usually get hugs from Joshy, and my husband will come over, and sometimes my kids will walk in, just Gideon, I'm like, Gideon, I'm on live.
Yeah.
Gideon, I'm videoing. Because he's my one that just comes in and, Mom, rah, you know, kind of shares his day and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we definitely have to be planned, because 10 people is a lot to do everything, vacations and holidays. Like right now, I was telling Haley today, I said, man, I'm almost unwrapping presents, and I have to wrap presents for like 16 people this year. And I have a list, I have it on my phone of what everybody's getting, and then I have it on a notebook, and then I have all my stocking stuff in a notebook, and I check it off. And I do it every holiday because I have to be so focused, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, we have traditions, like my kids get 7 presents, 1 big one, 6 small ones. And so that's what we do every single year.
Okay.
You know, everything, they get so many stocking stuffers, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to be like that. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but at least try.
Right. And that's the most important part.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to the cooking part.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I have major stove envy. You have the most gorgeous stove. And it's
I do. It's amazing.
I mean, it is. It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
So I've seen the videos where like everybody grabs a recipe and is cooking. And
Mm-hmm.
do you guys like genuinely like to cook, or do you just do it out of necessity? I guess this is one for the kids.
I don't mind it. I'm not good at it, but I don't mind doing it.
Okay.
She's the crock pot queen.
That's an important role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She came in, so all my kids cook. Robert just eats.
Okay.
He would cook, but he just likes to eat. He's my eater, especially with cookies. Whenever he smells the cookies in the house, he literally, and I'm not lying, he comes in and does a little dance, the same little dance, and I'm like, here you go. Like, he literally dances through the hallway when he smells the cookies. But my kids have introduced like cooking for me. Like Haley, she'd come in and she's like, Mom, there's this recipe on TikTok. It's a cracked chicken. What is it, Haley? It's a something cracked chicken. So do you mind if I cook? I'm like, no. So she got the crock pot out, which I think I use it for meatballs on Christmas time, right? Everybody does a little meatball thing. You stick it with the gravy, and then it just doesn't come out. And so she made it, and it was amazing. And she's like, can I make another one? I'm like, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, you know, this is kind of smart. Like, you can just dump everything in and, like, be done. Like, you're done. Like, you just come back to check on it. And then my daughter, Izzy, she makes the most amazing things, and they look so beautiful. So she inspires me that way. And I know I use my cast iron pan quite a bit, my 17-inch, my big, huge one. And for years, I'd never even, like, touched it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I need to use that cast iron pan. And then now I'm addicted to it. I'm like, what can I put in that cast iron pan? Lasagna, brownies. I mean, I'm looking at trying to do some rolls that are stuffed with something. So then, of course, because I loved it so much, I have a wall of it now. So I'm a collector too. So like, if there's 8 McDonald's toys, you know I'm gonna get all 8 of those. And we're gonna keep going back to McDonald's. Am I right, Haley? And we're gonna keep going back until we get all 8 of them. I just love like completing,
Sure.
you know. So I have, you know, brownie cast iron, pies, I mean, you name it, cookie sheets. I didn't even know you could get half of that in cast iron. So and then of course I had to ask my son-in-law, can you please make me a wall so I can put my cast iron pans on? And it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I love it so much. So yeah, I mean, Josh, he's the pizza guy. He makes everything pizza. He does a great job on it, you know, and so my kids all like to help. But speaking of cooking, and you mentioned my stove, well, our project during the whole COVID was to make our kitchen bigger. It was so small. And I told my husband, I said, our kids are getting bigger. We can't fit in here. And my kids like to hover over me when I cook. So I'm just like stirring like this. And I'm like, we gotta do something. We gotta do something. And so we literally knocked down the wall and got rid of our dining room. And he says, what do you want? I said, well, I want tons of counter space. And I want an island that's just gigantic, like as big as you can get it. I want a huge island. And I want benches so my kids can watch me cook. And then he's like, and I found the perfect stove for you. And I'm like, you did? He's like, yeah, well, you gotta look at these. Because my other stove was just kind of tiny. And he showed me these stoves. I'm like, wow, okay, sure, I'll take it, you know. And so I got to pick out the color and everything. And so it's a 7 burner. Well, the one actually turns into a griddle. So you take off the grates and you put like a griddle on there, and then you can cook like pancakes and stuff. So it's a genius idea. And I said, just make it as wide as you can and as deep as you can. And so that was kind of, I said, whatever else you want to do, that's fine. And so I literally have a 12-foot by 3-foot countertop with my stove in the middle, because I wanted my stove in the middle, with 8 benches around it. And that's pretty much, that's where we are. I mean, when my kids come in, they look to the kitchen because they know I'm going to be there. And we sit and talk, and we have coffee, and we eat, and I mean, the only reason we leave the kitchen is to watch football in the living room. That's really the only reason we leave the kitchen, is because we won't, we can't fit in there. So yeah, cooking is definitely a big part of our family, and our kitchen is, I'd say, it's the heart of our home. Don't you think, Haley? I mean, we're there all the time, all the time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I've noticed on some of your videos that it's not just quantity, but you try to make things really pretty, like with your charcuterie boards and your charcuterie tree. And I think that's really cool that you're not just cooking to feed the bellies, but you're also take a lot of pride in what you do and how it looks and how it makes people feel.
Mm. Well, I've definitely been trying to expand and kind of get into the charcuterie stuff. And then I'm all up for a party anytime, so the Lions, we're Lions fans, and my husband's like, he's like, okay, big game, gotta have a party. I'm like, okay, what do you want? So I think we did big beef burritos, and last year they made it so far, I was like, I'm tired, I can't do another Lions party, and we have to make sure we get the colors, and I think we did nachos last year, and so everybody knows when I do a party, they all come over because they know we're gonna all be putting things together. And my son Brendan's getting married next year, and his fiance loves being in the videos. So whenever she sees us doing a party, she's like, I'm like, okay, come on, get over there, But we all do work together, with the charcuteries, just because I'm trying to make traditions for my kids, because some of them didn't come with traditions. And so, if I cry, I usually cry when I talk about my kids, but. So I want, when they start having their families, I want them to have something that they can remember when they're littler. A tradition that they can pass on to their kids. My mom was big into traditions. I come from a big family, and so I'm trying to kind of carry that on. So that's why I do a lot of that stuff, is so they'll be like, okay, Halloween, okay, we always have a carving contest. And we're getting ready for our gingerbread contest soon. And then we do Christmas cookies, and we sing Mariah Carey songs and do Christmas, and then when we snap beans, we always watch Elf. We put the air conditioner on, shut the windows, and watch Elf snapping beans. That's our tradition, and the kids know it, and so they'll come up to me, are we going to do this, are we going to do this? So that's a lot of the reasons I do it, is because I really want my children to have just memories that they can take with them when they have their own families. So.
Do you have a favorite recipe in the cookbook?
So, meatloaf.
Okay.
I really like making meatloaf because it goes a long way and you can do so much with it. And I have to tell you, when my kids were little, I made meatloaf a lot. Are you the nay or yay meatloaf? Haley's a nay. I used to make meatloaf all the time because with 8 kids, meatloaf goes a long way. And you can put anything with it. French fries, green beans, it don't matter. And so recently, I was telling my kids I'm gonna make meatloaf. And they're just looking at me, and I'm like, what? They're like, we gotta tell you. I'm like, what? We don't like meatloaf. I said, it took you 15 years to tell me that. I'm like, I made it all the time, all the time. Because ground beef was so cheap, you whip up a meatloaf and you can eat it the next day. And so I found out, all of my family but 2 don't like meatloaf. And so I was like, what? And so I was heartbroken. And I thought, okay, well, what can I do to make it super cool? So I made meatloaf cupcakes, and I converted one of my kids back to meatloaf. Now they'll only eat meatloaf cupcakes, so you make the cupcake and you put mashed potatoes on it. And then I said, yeah, and they're super good. And it's the same exact recipe as I usually make. And they're like, these are the best meatloaf ever. It's literally the meatloaf I make all the time. But it's in a cupcake, Mom. I'm like, okay. So then I thought, I can do better than that. So I literally made a meatloaf cake. I put one layer. I even cooked it in my cake pans. So I did meatloaf on the bottom, filled with mashed potatoes, meatloaf on top, and then designed it on the top. They're like, wow, that's amazing. So now they ask for meatloaf cupcakes and meatloaf cake, but they don't like meatloaf. So I can't just make it traditional. And then one time I actually made a 10-pound meatloaf. I said, so there, we're gonna be eating that for 3 days. So I like meatloaf, but they, so I guess my second one would be the tater tot casserole. Because I mean, who doesn't love tater tots?
That's like childhood food, right?
Yeah, and even adults love tater tots.
I had them 2 days ago.
Yeah, love tater tots. Yeah. So if you ask my kids though, they would probably say chicken pot pie. Haley and Robert, they could eat chicken pot pie every day. Like, what do you want? Chicken pot pie. I literally can't make chicken pot pie every day, but they would have me do it. Yeah. So then I started doing it in smaller ones and put their initial on top, or I, put, if it's Christmas, some kind of design on the top or whatever, or make it in different dishes or whatever, just to kind of shake it up a little bit, even though it's the same exact recipe. But
It's presentation.
yeah, presentation,
Yeah,
right.
that makes a difference.
Right, exactly.
So, are there certain things that you will only make from scratch, and certain things that you're like, I'll just buy that at the store, like pre-made food or anything?
Honestly, I make a lot of stuff from scratch. I guess I do buy pie crust. If I have time, I'll make my own crust. But I do make a lot of things from scratch just because with a big family, like I could go buy a box of something, but it would only feed like 2 people, so I'd have to buy like 10 boxes.
Right.
And I might as well just have made it from scratch. And when my kids were little, we'd go grocery shopping and they would say, okay, Mom, we know we only go around the outside. Because I mean, 1 bag of Oreos,
Yeah.
done. We probably wouldn't even, it'd be empty before we even got out of the store. So we would do the outside, so we go dairy, meats, veggies, fruits. And so we'd walk in and I remember Robert, okay, Mom, so we don't go on the insides, right? No, we don't go on the insides. Only for the holidays. Then you get like the treats and stuff. But so I've done a lot of stuff from scratch just because, just cost effective.
Sure.
Being able to make a ton of stuff and it go a long way. So I don't buy a lot of box things. I mean stuffing, like I said, pie crust, but for the most part, I actually learned to make roux when people started asking me, like, what's this recipe, then I taught myself how to make a roux. And so that's basically, it's used in everything. It's, flour, butter, salt, pepper, and cream, and there you got a sauce. Add cheese to it or whatever you want.
Right, mac and cheese, or I saw
Right.
you made your own cream and mushroom soup.
Yeah, it was amazing. Gideon literally said, this is the best cream bean casserole you've made ever. And he's 20, so 20 years, and he says this is it. And it was amazing. And he ate the whole, I'm sure you've seen in the video, the whole corner was gone. He goes, so we have to wait for Thanksgiving. And I said, please eat it. It's okay. I can kind of try and turn it a little bit so you can't see that part. But so yeah, he said it was amazing. So now I can't
You can't go back.
canned.
Right.
Yeah.
My coworker said to ask you about your Christmas candy salad.
Yeah, so we made a Christmas candy salad. I don't really know why. It was really good though, but yeah. What does she want to know about?
I don't know.
Like why we
She
made
just-
it, or
She just said, ask her about her Christmas candy salad. That's
yeah,
all she
it was
gave me.
actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, we made it and then we put it into smaller bowls. We do a kids program in our church. We've been doing for 28 years, and so I thought, well, this would be kind of cool for the kids as a nice treat. But my younger kids are really into like gummy everything, like gummy nerds and like you name it. So those things that you take a bite and they squirt out. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Gushers.
No, it's like plastic, and they have a liquid in them, and they just.
Oh, yeah.
I don't. I'm kind of out of touch with my younger kids, but they're into that these weird kind of gummy candies, and so
So you just make like a,
I thought, let's just make a
okay.
salad, and it was actually not too bad. There was no rhyme or reason for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know, I think those are all the questions I had for you.
Okay.
Is there anything else I didn't ask you that you want to tell people?
Well, I can tell about my cookbook,
Well, yeah.
like the uniqueness of the cookbook.
I don't do this very often.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about, as a book person, I should be on top of this. So did you search it out, or did someone come to you and say, hey, we want to publish your cookbook? Because it's by one of the big five, it's by Simon & Schuster, so that's a huge
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, we wrote the cookbook because our followers asked, hey, why don't you guys write a cookbook? And I'm like, well, that's a really good idea, but I'm kind of tired, because we're busy with the farm and everything. And so I thought, maybe that is a good idea. So I started writing. So I have these yellow notebooks that I kind of stole from I used to make fun of my husband because he's in masonry and he has these yellow professional notebooks. I'm like, they're everywhere. Like, why do you use those? And then when I started writing things down for like our social media and recipes, I'm like, well, those are kind of nice. So I started like taking his notebooks. And he's like, where's all my notebooks? I'm like, they're really nice. So now I understand. So I started just writing down all of our recipes. And I thought, well, if the Lord leads and somebody comes up to me and is like, hey, let's write a cookbook, I'll be already started. And so I just started writing everything down. And then I had somebody contact me and said, hey, have you ever thought about writing a cookbook? And I'm like, well, actually, I kind of started already because people keep telling us we need to do it. And so I started talking with her and I said, well, and I have a really good idea for it, is because people ask about our family dynamics and our adoption story. I said, I want to do a cookbook, but then tell them about our adoption story at the same time, but then also tell them how I evolved as a mom who cooked for so many kids, because being in foster care, we had kids coming in and out, and one of the big things with foster care is sensory issues and food insecurities. Maybe they didn't get food, maybe they got too much food or not the right food, or maybe it was limited. And so the cookbook talks about me as how I evolved. I don't have to say evolved, but how I changed as a cook just because of the children coming in and out of my home, and how I had to change different things and incorporate from scratch, but also foods that they were familiar with. Maybe it was just nuggets and fries. So we do nuggets and fries, but then add something new that they could try. And so what I love about the cookbook is that it does share all of our recipes from all of us, not just me, but that it shares our adoption story, and it goes in order of how we came together. So me, then I met my husband, and he's the second chapter. Then we adopted David, he's the third chapter. And so it's not like appetizers, sides, meats. It's like casseroles and grilling and breakfast. Like, it makes no sense. There's no like order with it. It's just the order of how our family came together. And then we tell, the beginning of each chapter tells a little bit about each of us, and then their story, and then just how I changed as a cook. And then before each recipe, it's just like a little paragraph telling you about the recipe itself and how it came to be. For example, when Robert and Brendan came into our home, I feel like I make the best mac and cheese ever. Like, I see right now there's like this big trend, like who has the best mac and cheese. I really feel like I had really good mac and cheese. And when Robert and Brendan came in, Robert's like, well, I don't really like your mac and cheese. I'm like, what? It's way too cheesy. And I'm like, how do you not have a cheesy mac and cheese? That don't make no sense. We like the Kraft mac and cheese because that's what he was used to, And so now he'll say, hey, can you make your mac and cheese with, like, can you add chicken nuggets to it? He'll even take the dino nuggets. You want to add the dino nuggets to it, or maybe some bacon. And so now he loves our mac and cheese. He loves my mac and cheese, but he just had to kind of get used to it. So it was quite the journey for me on cooking, and now I can do a lot more different things now that my kids are older. So I can make more unique things with different spices. But when they were littler and they had different sensory issues, I had to be very careful with the spices I used or the texture of the food. So it has changed. When my kids were little, we had a main dish and like 6 or 7 side dishes. So the kids could choose at least 2. You know, if you can choose one you know and then one you don't, just even if you just try one green bean, I'm fine with that. But now it's all kind of together, and they're older, so they, you know, it's easier for them to try different things they're not used to. But then I got tired, and so then everything became a casserole because you got everything in it, right? You got your dairy, you got your protein, you got your veggies, and so my husband calls me the one dish wonder because it's just you just throw it all in a pot or a pan and you cook it, and so I do love making casseroles. Anything casserole, I do love it because it's. I know this is kind of weird to say, but I do feel like sometimes I'm a lazy cook, and that's why I do casseroles. Because I can just get it in there and be like, like everything's in there.
Well,
Throw a little cheese on it. Yes.
In the winter, like, there's really nothing better, right, than a casserole.
Right.
It's just so.
And soups, right?
Yeah.
Soups, you just throw things in, and you can put anything in a soup, like anything,
Yeah.
and love it. Like I make a cheeseburger soup, and for the longest time, I got so much hate on it. Because they literally thought I was sticking a cheeseburger in there. I'm like, who's gonna stick a cheeseburger in the soup? It's literally potatoes with the ground beef, like the concept of it is the ingredients that you find in a cheeseburger. And I'm like, it's not a cheeseburger in the soup, it's like ground, and they're like, oh, I get it, you know. So that's kind of one I make quite often is cheeseburger soup. And right now we're in soup season, so I've been making lots of soups and chilies, and so and I do cook according to seasons too. So in the summer, we do more grilling and then just cold salads. And then in the fall, it's like soups pretty much 4 times a week is soups.
Do you have a big garden? Do you have a garden or don't?
I actually had 2 gardens this year.
Okay.
Yep. And I canned like, oh goodness, like over 500 jars of stuff. I made tomato sauce for the very first time. It was amazing. And I canned mixed vegetables and carrots and you name it. I canned it, sun-dried tomatoes. I mean, my pantry is so beautiful right now. Can't wait to share it. It's so pretty. But I canned a ton. I did 2 gardens just because I wanted to learn how to do things from scratch, like the tomato sauce. I got introduced to a, what's the blender called? An emulsion blender. Never used one ever. Oh,
I know.
I couldn't stop blending. I'm just like, bring on something else.
I know.
Let's do a soup and blend. It's amazing.
I never pull out my blender anymore, I just use the mortar.
Well, and it's a small little blade, and you're thinking, how's that going to make beautiful tomato soup or tomato sauce? And it does. It's just you watching, you're like, wow, come here, look at this, you know? So I'm a little addicted to an emulsion blender right now. I've been blending everything.
Yeah. When they did the cookbook, did you have a say in the way it looks, and like the layout and the cover? Did they send a photographer out to photograph you guys, or are these your photos, or?
They did. So a lot of them are photos that I had, and then they took photos of our family for each of the chapters and stuff. And then they had me pick all the recipes. And then they worked with me. They were really great. I mean, just with the editing and stuff. I mean, we had a little poll just because I feel like they're city and we're country, so they didn't really understand, like, how we would like things to look. Compared to, like, I didn't want it like real contemporary or anything because we're just kind of a farm family. So the front cover kind of took a while just because I was like, that just doesn't look like us, or that's not, you know, what we would do, because I wanted to be like us. And you see, and you're like, oh yeah, that's you guys. But for the most part, it was really smooth. Yeah, I mean, we got to do the pictures and everything. It was funny because when they came up, they did send a photographer up, and they actually sent like their head guys to come up and be part of the photo shoot, which they don't normally do. And they were taking pictures off the walls, and I'm just like, oh, you know, and I mean, the kitchen was a mess, and because we had to plate food for pictures and then eat the food, but then I had to make dinner at the same time, so I had to make like 3 tater tot casseroles so we could eat and then pretend to eat right, you know. So yeah, it was quite a big deal. They came for 3 days and just did photo shoots of all the kids, and the photographer was amazing. He was from California, nicest guy ever. Like, he was super cool. So they were really invested in us. They really wanted this cookbook to be successful. So, and it was neat because they didn't realize how busy we were. They seen the videos and stuff, and then when they came in, they're like, "Whoa, you guys aren't really busy." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, we are."
Yeah.
And they bought all of them bought mud boots. They were so excited about buy farm boots. I don't know if they ever used them after that, but they knew they were coming to a farm, so they walked up and they all had these like galoshes boots. I'm just like, I'm in my Birks because I wear them all year with socks, you know. But they were ready to be on a farm and they had their coats and, you know, for us up here when it hits 45, we're like, yeah, shorts. And we're like barely in, you know, no jackets and they're like bundled up. They're like, it's freezing. I'm like, really? Like there's no snow? And are you kidding? It's 45 degrees and sunny.
Yeah,
It's
we were
time
just
for the
talking
beach.
about that with people in Florida, how all of a sudden the newscasters, when it hits 50, they all have parkas on. They're talking about the cold front. We're just like, are you kidding me?
Right. But they loved it. I mean, they loved everything about our family and the farm, and they loved the horses, and they just took a trillion pictures, and they love the lake and just everything. I mean, they're coming from these big cities, and they have no idea, you know, us farm folks, us rural folks, how we do things.
How lucky we are.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, our area is so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Do you plan on doing another one, or do you think you're?
So we are talking about a holiday book, which would be right up my alley because I'm all about the holidays. And then a gardening book, like sharing canning, recipes and things like that. And then I got approached to possibly do a biography of our family, our journey, of my infertility journey, and then my kids and how our family kind of came together. So,
Have you done writing before this, or is this your first writing project?
yeah, no, I've never written a cookbook before, but I am a person that when I study, I take lots of notes. And so just like with my recipes, I just have just notebook. I mean, I probably have 50 yellow notebooks sitting around, which is, I don't even, when I go back to them, I'm like, what did you make here? Why didn't you put a title there? I have no idea what the recipe is, you know, I have to figure it out. But, so I've always kind of been that way where when I do studying, even in school, I just wrote, I like to write a lot. So, but it was difficult though. I mean, my neck hurt so much from looking at the computer because I had to type in everything and then retype. So it was, it took a lot of work. And what's amazing too is normally when you write a book, it can take up to 2 years to publish it. And they said, if you go with us, we'll have your cookbook within 9 months. And so,
That's incredibly
yeah,
fast.
so I had deadlines like, they're like, okay, we I think it was June or July, we're like, okay, we're gonna go with them. And then by September, I had to have 50%, and then I had to have 25 by December, and 100 by January. Then I had to have it all edited by February. So we were completely done by March, and they had it printed by June, and then released by October. So that's one of the reasons we chose them, because they're like, we can get this cookbook out for you.
That's astoundingly fast.
Yeah.
Especially for Simon.
Right.
Okay, so, looking at the time, okay, one last question. What advice, because now we're going into the holiday season and people are gonna be cooking for crowds. So if you could give people one piece of advice on how to keep their sanity, what would it be?
Well, because I'm an organized person, I would like write down like events that you're gonna do and what you need. Like I literally do that. If we're gonna do a party, I will get my notebook out and I'll make a list of everything I need. Like for our gingerbread contest, I write down every little thing that we'll possibly need for our gingerbreads. So I would say maybe make lists, and I do plan stuff. We have a group text even with their friends, and I'll say, okay, on this date we're doing this. Tell me thumbs up or thumbs down. So I am a planner, I guess, but I don't know, also just kind of relax and enjoy the holidays too. I mean, it doesn't have to be all planned out, you know. I've been trying, that's why I try and get everything done right away, because I want to enjoy my December instead of shopping and cooking all the time. And then have your family a part of it. It does make for memories and traditions, and it makes it easier on you when everybody works together. So I guess that would, is that good
I
advice?
think that's great advice.
Okay.
That's great advice. Does anyone have any questions?
I talk so much, I probably shared more than they even needed to know.
Where's your home?
So we're about 20 minutes out of Marquette, south. We have a poultry farm, BSB farm, so we sell eggs.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're not far from Marquette.
Scandia area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I raised my kids in Scandia, that's why I was just curious. So I didn't realize the horses, that really
The Clydesdale horses, yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful animals.
We love that area, it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Nice.
Anybody else? All right, we have books back if you want one, and we also have giveaways. We have, little tea towels and some stickers and stuff, that go with the books, and Heather will be happy to sign. So, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you all
thanks
so
for
much
coming, I
your help.
appreciate it, thank you. Thank you. Boots are cute. So you want me to just go back there then?
Yeah.
Okay.